All right, so let us create a slide just like this one from scratch. So first we're going to click Add Slide to choose a new blank slide. I'm actually going to get rid of the subtitle space because we're not going to need that. And I'm going to make the slide background black in this case. So I'm on Format. I'm going to choose black as the color fill. And then I'm going to go ahead and create my my little label here that says assumption. So I turned that white, and then I just wrote or typed assumption. And then I was actually using Oswald font in this case. So change it to Oswald. And I'm just going to slide that baby right up near the top. Okay. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add these little talking heads to the image. So I have my assumption. Oh, I forgot there was a colon there. Let's put that in. So now I'm going to do these. Now I actually created, I got these from the Noun Project and colored them in white. And there's a separate tutorial for how to color things differently. But anyway, I'm just going to go ahead and drop in one of those. Now you'll see that the one that I got had this empty brain space. So as I drag it to make it a larger size and take up more of the space, you'll notice this empty brain space. So I'll show you how to fix that in a minute. We're going to create a shape to do that. So we're going to grab a circle shape because that's sort of the closest to this. You could use a square, you could use a few. There's lots of different ways to cheat this basically, but I'm going to create a circle and I'm just going to make it big enough. It's not constrained proportion-wise, so I can, scale it however I want. And then I'm going to click Style and choose Regular Color Fill and fill it in white because that's what my little head image is. And then by default, for some reason, this might not be you, but mine are set to drop shadow as default. I don't want the drop shadow. So anyway, I'm going to bring it over here. And then I'm going to arrange and send it to the back to make sure it's to the back. And then my last thing is just to sort of, just to slide that little thing around to make it just small enough that it's not, showing that I'm cheating here, but big enough that it fills the space. And so now that I have both of those there, I'm going to group them together by selecting both the original image and the filler space and then clicking group. And so now they're together, and so whenever I move it, they go together, which is great. Now I want two of these because I'm going to have one on each side. So I'm going to go ahead and select Command D on my keyboard. Now I have a duplicate of it. I'm going to slide it over here, and then I'm going to hit this flip horizontal key to get it aligned that way. And now I want them both aligned like roughly the same distance from midline. All right, so now that I have those, the next thing I'm going to do is make a text box and bring it over here because I want this one to say presenter and the other one to say audience. So this one I'm going to say presenter, right? And then I'm going to Command D, duplicate it. So I have one on this side. Keynote does a nice thing where it shows you where the alignment is. So when I'm up here, it's like, oh, you're aligning to the top line. And you're here, you're aligning to the middle. And that's what I want. So I'm going to type audience instead there. And now I want to create these pink boxes that sort of indicate what's really happening versus what's not. And I'm just going to use a basic shape, basic square shape. And I'm just going to start with one, but I'm going to make it a little more rectangular like I had in the original. Just a little bit smaller. And then I want it to be a different color. So I go to the style and I pick color fill. And then I go to my custom color palette and I have this Martify pink color that I'm using. So I fill that in. And now I'm going to go ahead and Command D. I'm going to duplicate that. And look, now I have two. And again, Keynote does this lovely thing where it shows you when you're at central alignment. So I'm going to say, okay, that's fine. At a maximum, I want 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So let's go ahead and align 7 of these. Okay, so now we have 7. 5, 6, 7. Right? 7 of those. Now I want them to kind of be equally distributed. So again, Keynote does this lovely thing where it shows you when things are equally distributed. See that little like yellow, yeah, that yellow bar in between that tells you, oh, these are sort of aligned like the ones above or below, right? The same relative distance. Really helpful. Really helpful. So now I can group those. Go to Arrange and Group. So now whenever I move them, they all move together. And now I'm going to go Command D and duplicate that. So that can go on this side. And so what I'm ultimately doing is creating, you know, the bigger stuff first, and then I'm going to delete from there. That's, to me, the shortcut way. So I have both of those. And now, for a moment, I will ungroup. Oops. I take that back. I'm going to duplicate again and move that over here. And now I'm going to ungroup because I want to get rid of 2, right? And then I'm going to group these guys again and just slightly readjust. And then I'm going to duplicate that so I have the same thing on the other side. Okay. And then I'm going to duplicate it again Command D, and I'm going to ungroup so that I can delete 1. And then I'm going to group, and I'm going to duplicate and move that over to the other side. And then I'm going to duplicate again. And I'm going to ungroup, and I'm going to delete 2. And group and delete to the other side. So you see how it just kind of like built the same structure on each side, but just copying and pasting. So I don't have to like create every single one of those. Now in this version, they're a little bit more distributed. I played with more of an angle, and you can still do that because you've got this whole group, right? So for example, you can just scoot these guys down a little bit so they look like they're a step down. And then since that's grouped, again, you can pretty easily slide those guys down. And so you have that sort of step effect if you're into that sort of thing. Okay, so that's optional. And now once I have that, the last thing is I'm adding this sort of midline line and arrow and then the little words within those. So let's do the midline first. So I have my ruler guide already set up for the midline. So I'm going to select a shape. In this case, it's a line. It pops up right there. You can sort of see the endpoints, but because of the black background, it's very hard to see. So let's make it white immediately. And then we're going to grab one end and align it to the ruler and the other end and drag it down here to the ruler. And then I personally am a big fan of making it a dashed line for this exercise. And if I get rid of my ruler guide at this point, you can see that more clearly, right? Now in this one, I actually broke it into 2 pieces so I can make that arrow, and you can do that if you like. The way to do that is just to shrink this one down, and then Command D, my favorite, duplicate it and bring the other half down lower. So now you have a nice little gap there in between. And then you're going to do another shape, this time an arrow, and again it's black, so I like to make it white right away so I can see it. And then I can just, by dragging each end, arrange it. Yeah. So I'm leaving it white this time, but you know, you could obviously change it to whatever color you want. You could make it Martify pink. You could make it bigger. You could make it dotted. You could, you know, whatever. Keynote gives you a lot of cool options, so whatever. We'll make it like that. So here we are, real close, real close. And then the final thing, is the text that goes in here, which again is just a text box, colored white. It's probably more like that size text, and it's, you know, idea, duplicate it, data, idea, etc., etc. So you just, you know, make as many duplicates of those as you want. And then I ultimately like to group things together so it's easy to move them around. But that is how we went from nothing to pretty much this, right? Almost finished. Voila.